Hello, this is Amin, and this is session 57 of ASP.NET Core MVC tutorial. In this session, we are going to handle error and exceptions in ASP.NET Core MVC web application. First, we are going to handle 404 error. Let's flip to Visual Studio to see what we have when some page which is not exist called by browser. This is the project that we have been working so far throughout this tutorial, and as you can see, we have just category controller, cost controller, and home controller. Let me run the project, and here project is up and running, and I can browse between the sections that I have. But imagine I want to go to test controller and test page, the controller and action method which is not exist in the web application. When I want to go to this page, I can see the 404 error which is mentioned here, and it's mentioned the localhost or the domain that I have, page cannot be found. And I want to display more proper message to the user regarding this type of error. Let's back to Visual Studio. And here first I can go to a startup class. And here you can see the developer exception page will display it if some unhandled error will happen. But I want to say if the environment is not development, display the page based on the error that happened. That's why I can use app use a status code page. And if I run this project and if the environment would not be development, the static code page will display it when some error happen, especially 404 error that I have discussed yet. And I can check the stage of an environment of my web application inside launch settings.json. I have explained it earlier, and you can see when I'm using IIS Express, the environment is production and it's no longer development environment. That's why if some error happen, this middleware will launch the page that display the error. Let me save the changes and run the project once more. Project built successfully, and here I'm going first to the web application to make sure that the project is up and running, and then I try again to go to controller test and action method test. This time you can see a status code 404 not found will display, and this is another page that I have seen earlier when I'm trying to go test page. And if I'm going to the development page by pressing F12 button and launch this page again, you can see here when I'm calling for test action method and test page, I receive 404 error, and I can display this information to the end user. But I still can improve this page and display the more proper view to the end user when they try to reach to the page that is not exist in the web application. Let me back to Visual Studio to explain what else I can do for this page. Here I have another middleware which is use a status code page redirect, and I use that one. Use a status code page with redirect. And here I should mention I want to redirect the page to which controller or which page. I can say I want to go to error page or error controller. And also I want to send the a status code to the controller to display the more accurate message, and that's why I can use option after the error controller. Now I need to create a controller with name of error, and I do it here inside the controller. I add a new controller and I call it error. And inside error controller, I have automatically index action method. I change it to not found. And here I'm using attribute for routing. If the web application try to reach this action method, needs to have error in the URL and also the status code. And here I can receive the status code, and then I can display the proper message when I receive the status code and analyze what is the status code. And here I will create a view, but this time inside shared. It is a razor view empty, and I call it error, and I add it. I delete this auto-generated code, and first I use the view back title to display the title of the page, and then I can display the message that I want to be presented to user when the user entered an invalid URL. I can use h1 tag and use bootstrap classes, alert and alert danger. And here I can display the message that I want. I will return to error controller, and here I said if this action method or if the web application redirected to this controller, display error view, which is inside shared folder inside views. And here I can have access to a status code, and I check the status code with switch case. And I said if case would be 404, stores a proper message inside the viewback. I call it error title and then break. And here I can write down the proper message. And also I can use default if some other error happen. I can say write down unexpected error to be displayed inside that page. Now in this situation, if the status code would be 404, this message I expect to display inside the error view. That's why I'm going to error view, and here I'm using this view back to display the proper message inside the view. And also here I'm using margin Y5 to have margin from top. Let me save the changes and run the project. Project now is up and running, and then I'm going to reach page test, which is not exist, and you can see the message that I expected display here. The requested page is not exist, and with the slide that I want. Of course, this page would be better than the generic message that we have checked earlier. And let's check something here and look at the URL. I'm going to test but it's automatically redirected to error 404 page, and the message is displayed. If you look at this one, I can see the response code is 302, which is related to redirect permanently or temporarily, and then I receive 200, which is the HTTP code, which is related to successfully return something. But while I expect to have 404 instead of these codes, and also I miss the route that I expect to have it here, and you can see it's changed to error 404. For solving this issue, I can use another middleware. Let's back to Visual Studio to discuss about another middleware that can solve this issue as well. Inside the startup class, I mark this one and I use another middleware, which is UseStatusCode with re-execution. And again, I copy this code from here and paste it here. And now I can save the changes and run the project to see what are the differences between UseStatusCodePage with re-execution and UseStatusCode page with redirect. Project is built successfully, and here the project is up and running. Let me close the developer page, and again I'm trying to go to test. The result is the same as the previous middleware, but let's see what I have inside the network when I try to reach this page. First, you can see nothing happened in the URL, and I still have test inside the URL, and the URL that I try to reach has not been changed. And also here you can see I have the status code 404, which I expect to have. That's why I suggest to use this middleware for controlling 404 page for your web application. Also, the other part that I want to discuss is displaying proper message when an unhandled error happen. You imagine when you are going to cost list. Let me close the development page, and here I'm trying to go to, for example, this page, and I try to reach the detail which its ID is not exist inside the database, same as 895, and you can see error 500 displayed in this page, and this page is not working will display. And also if I launch the project inside the development page, you can see I have more detailed error. Let's back to Visual Studio and change the environment again to development. Save the changes and run the project again. And this time, when I try to reach the error which is not exist inside the database, you can see I have the developer exception page, and it has detail, and I can find more information here. This information is useful for developer, but if we display this type of exception to the end user, it may expose our web application to some security risk because it has some detailed information regarding our code. That's why we should display a proper message and ask the user to contact the administrator of the page or something like this. Let's back to Visual Studio to work on this unhandled exception page. Again, I'm going to production, save the changes, and here inside the startup I can use another middleware to handle this type of error, especially when I'm not in development environment. And here I'm using exception handler, and I ask the web application if any unhandled exception happen, go to error page. And I don't need the status code anymore, and I just display the proper message if an unhandled exception happen. Also, I need to go to error controller, and here create another view with route of error. It would be a public action method. Its result is iActionResult, and the name of the action method is exception error. I don't need any input parameter for this one, and it of course return a view which its name is error. And the error title, I need error title for this one, and I mentioned unexpected error occurred. And another view back, I send more information, error message, and I said please report this error to the website administrator. And then I'm going to error page, and here I'm using h4 tag. It would be again alert danger, and my1, and here I'm using another viewback that I have here to display the proper message. Let me save the changes and run the project again. Project is up and running. I'm going to cost list and display one of that one, and then I try to reach one error which is not exist inside the database, and you can see unexpected error occur. Please report this error to the website administrator happen. If you look at the network inside the developer helper, you can see error 500 happen, and the proper message display on the browser. But if you remember, in previous session we talked about the relation between the database, and also sometimes I try to display a proper message for a specific error. If you remember, in the cost list, when I try to delete a record which has some cost, one error will occur, and for that one, if you remember, I use try catch box of error here inside the web application. If you look at the SQL Server category repository, you can see here I'm using try catch error to stop displaying any error. But here, if I disable this try catch block and run the project again, when I'm trying to delete a record which has some cost record, you can see unexpected error occur happen, but it doesn't provide any specific data and what is the reason that I can't delete that record, and it is just a generic error. If I want to display sometimes a proper message related to error that we expect happen in the web application, same as the time when we know if some category cannot be deleted when they have some cost record. We can manage the web application to display proper message which is related to error that we expect to happen when the user try to delete that type of category. For this purpose, let's back to Visual Studio and implement more changes there. Let's active this try catch block of code again. But here we know the error that happened is related to the database, and if I put this block of code and I want to catch just the error which is related to database, I should here add one pair of parentheses here, and here I should use db update exception. I need to add its namespace, and I should have a object which store the db update exception error. And here, if this part of code launch without any error, I expect to have delete cat list as a return item. But if some db update exception happen, I expect to return null value to the controller. Next step, I should go to the controller, to the category controller. And here, for the delete purpose, I should check what I have when I launch this method. That's why I store it in an object. Now, if I have null value inside del list, it means some database related error happened, which is related to the limitation of the delete of the record, which has some child record. That's why I check whether del list is empty or not. For this purpose, I check del list is equal null. It means some error happened. Now I can return the error view. And here I can display the message that I expect to have, but when I want to use this page for multiple purposes, I should pass some viewback which can work as condition to display the proper message. And here I use viewback again, and del error, I want to send whether any error which is related to delete record happened or not, and I store yes here. Also, inside the viewback, I use del title, delete has not been completed, delete operation has not been completed. And here I can pass the message that I want to be displayed for the user, del message. I want to pass this information to the user. This record cannot be deleted because one or more cost record use this category. And then I'm going to error. Here is the part that the generic message happened. That's why I should check whether the exception is related to delete or is not related to delete operation. That's why I can use if and else. If the error is not related to delete, display the generic message. But if the error is related to delete operation, here I have this viewback which has the information that the error is related to delete operation or not. And here I said viewback is equal yes or not. If it's equal yes, I can display the message which is related to delete operation. That's why I'm using the respective viewback which I stored here, del title. Del title will be displayed as error title, and del message which convey the message which is related to delete operation. Let's save the changes and run the project again. And project is up and running. Let's go to category list. And I try to delete this record. You can see delete operation has not been completed, and the proper message which is related to this error is displayed here. And if some error which is not related to delete component will happen, same as cast detail, and try to display a record which is not exist inside the database, unexpected error occur happen. And also if I am going to display a controller and action method which is not exist inside the data inside the web application, the another proper message will display the requested page is not exist, and there is no further information regarding this error. With this combination, I can handle all the error which is related to web application, and the user always see a user-friendly page without any technical information which increase security risk for our web application. Let's recap this session. First, for 404 error, I try to use a static code page which display a message, and that message was a generic message. But then I use a static code page with redirect inside the configure method of a startup class, and then I create a controller with name of error and the status code that I expect to manage this error. That's middleware has some issue that the status code will not presented correctly inside the network. Then I use the UseStatusCodePages with re-execute, which is final solution for 404 error. Also, you can handle it with other way that you can handle. It is one of the way that I am using for my web application. And also inside the controller, I create one action method for not found, and its route is error slash the status code, and I receive the status code as an input parameter, and then check what error happened and display the proper message and send the proper message with viewback.error. And also inside the view which I created inside the shared folder, I display the message that I want to be presented. Also for unhandled error, I should add one more middleware inside the configure method of a startup class, which is app.useExceptionHandler, and again I pass it to error controller, and then inside the error controller I create another action method which it wrote its error, and also it's display the proper message and send the proper message through viewback. Also, I'm doing some changes inside the controller and inside the respective controller and the repository to display a customized message for the customized error that I expect to have when I use the web application and user use the web application. Thank you for watching this session. Don't forget to subscribe this channel and like our videos and put your comments here because we need your support to continue this type of tutorial. And also follow us on our social media to receive the most recent updates regarding the tutorials. Once more, thank you for being with us.